Hello and welcome to the transcription explanation of Circular Grubbifreyan. This is a unique script developed by Prophecy Oak, which this is all of the guts of the cheat sheet of how to use it. That was inspired by the video game Hollow Knight, which this is some imagery from the actual game. This particular screenshot is known as the Vitruvian Grub and shows lots of elements that inspired this script. And the format of this video will have three parts. The first part is showing some screenshots and going into some of the background of what this script was trying to mimic in-game. And then I'm going to read some examples of artwork that has been done using this script. And then last but not least, I'm going to draw an example of a phrase using this script, which will put it all together and hopefully make it a bit clearer, as well as, show you an example of how from ground up you can use this script. So that being said, let's talk about the video game Hollow Knight and show some screenshots that have the elements that the script is mimicking. So I'm going to use some words that will be repeated a lot throughout this. The first word is a flower, and these sorts of imageries where there's like a little shape going around a central circle is a flower. So these are all flowers in the design of the Vitruvian Grub, and these are the flowers on the script. You'll notice the exact same shape sometimes shows up because that's the goal, to make the mimicking shape. So this is a partial flower with a partial circle. This is a half flower with a half circle. This is a hollow flower that's just an open circle around our flower. This is a filled in flower, lots of terminology all describing the flower. And the next thing I'm going to talk about are stems and leaves. So the stems are what the flowers grow on, and that's what the words grow on. So this is a stem here for all of these different letters, and then the leaves are the little protrusions on the stem. There are empty leaves, and there are bump leaves. So this is a bump leaf right here with a little bump on the leaf. And then these are empty leaves right here with no bumps on the leaves. The next aspect are spores, which are these little tiny dots right here and right here, which are attached to flowers. So this is a little vowel key here, which is kind of tricky to understand by itself, but these little dots are the spores. So if a flower is a filled-in circle like this with a one-dot spore, that's the letter E. If it's got two dots, like if there were a second dot here, that would make it an I. If it were an empty flower, it would have be an A if it had no spores, an O if it had one spore, and a U if it had two spores. But again, this is the image that inspired the script, so you can't actually read this. It'd be cool if you could, though. So those are the shapes and elements that show up in a design used in the script to mimic this kind of imagery from the game. We have flowers, we have stems and leaves, and we have spores. So here's another example of the imagery from the game, where again we can see that same leaf pattern on these stems, flowers with those empty circles, and spores, same kind of imagery but different styles. Because you can play with the style of the script so long as you can tell what elements are what, it works for legibility. And then here's our third and final image from the game, where again, those same sort of motifs. We have spores and flowers and stems with leaves and stuff like that. This would be like a leaf coming off of this stem with a flower. Anyway, lots of terminology for circles, lines, and dots. So here is an example of something actually written in this script. So this was designed by a friend of mine, Lauren Sherman, who just did the little stuff on the plate here, on the rock, on the lore tablet, if you will, or Adventurer's Journal. This is an image not drawn by my friend. This is just some picture of Hornet, which is a character from the game. And this phrase was done in this script, so you can actually read it. Now, reading things takes in account for the word order, which I didn't talk about in the last thing, because that's harder to see in those images from the game, but is more obvious in things that people actually wrote. You read this script by first finding a focal point, which is this little center area. And the first thing you look at is the thing at the bottom, which is a remnant from Grubbifreyan, which is a time traveler script, which you read like a clock going back in time. So you start at the bottom and then go counterclockwise or back in time to read it. So anyway, this is our first word because it's at the bottom. And then going counterclockwise, we hit our next word, which is this one. So this is a two-word phrase because there's 2 word stems. And then if we look at the stems themselves, we can start to get an idea of how long those words are. So here's one letter stem with a vowel attached, and here's another letter stem, except this vowel is just a filled-in solid circle with no spores, so there's no actual vowel on this letter. And then our next letter, it's another letter with a vowel. Oh, this carrier dashed line is when you have a stem with no flower built in. So a K has no flower built in, a G, Q, X all have no flowers built in to their letter stems. And this allows you to still attach a vowel to that. So even though this must be the letter G, K, X, or Q because there is no built-in flower, and then there's also an attached vowel to it. So anyway, that's another hint there. So one letter, and then the second letter growing from it. So the letters, they just kind of grow out from it. You can attach them with a line like this. So long as they don't actually touch and look like a stem, you're fine. So this is a more common way of attaching letters, this like little anchor point, this branch, if you will. So here's our first word, and let's go ahead and figure out what letter this is. We have a bump leaf and a straight leaf. We can look through our alphabet to find that, which is a G, a straight leaf, and a bump leaf, or we could look through this key, which puts the letters in a grid based on what elements they have. So here are the leaves, and there is a straight leaf and a bump leaf, and no flower, making it the letter G. So letter G on this key, or letter G on this key. So this is the letter G. Our first letter of our first word is G. And then we continue to our vowel, which is the flower, and it's a filled-in circle with 2 dots, well, 2 spores. So that makes it an I. So GI is our first branch of our word. And then our next branch, if we look at it, our flower is a circle around it, a circle, an enclosed flower, I guess I'll call it. It's this shape, a circle, a complete circle around our flower. And that makes it in this column, or this one, this one, this one, if we want to look at it bird book style. And then our leaves are just one single stick leaf, so we could look in this column. So complete flower, hey, and that lines up to make a T. Or we could look around here, and there's the T, circle around the flower with a single leaf. So this is the letter T. So our first word is get, G-E-T, get. And then our next word, starting here, this is another G. It's got a bump leaf and a straight leaf. So G is our first letter. And then continuing around, this is another 2-spore vowel, except it's an open circle. So this is the letter U instead of the letter I. So filled in means it's an I. Open means it's a U. So this is a U. So G, U, and then our last branch on this word has 1, 2 straight leaves and 1, 2 bump leaves. So we can look on our key here, and it's not 2 straight leaves, it's not 1 and 1, it's not 1. So it's none of these normal ones, so we got to look for our special ones. Hey, here's 2 and 2. So that means it's in this special column. So that means it's a D. So this row of specials, they only have one form in this row. Sorry, let me explain that a bit more clear. So this special row is special because a B is the only letter with 2 straight leaves and 1 bump leaf. A D is the only letter with 2 straight leaves and 2 bump leaves. And L is the only letter with 2 straight leaves and 1 bump leaf. Otherwise, these leaves have multiple letters. So it was just an easier way for me to reference reading. So that makes this have to be a D. Or if we look at the bird book style, here's the D, 2 straight leaves and 2 bump leaves makes it a D. So that means this says get good, which is fitting. So this example says get good. Here is one more example that'll, this is spoilers for what's going to happen next. Let me minimize this. Okay, so here we have our next example. This is something I drew, and there are 1, 2, 3 words around this focus. Our first word, 1 leaf, one straight leaf, so we're in this row. So the only letter in this row is a T, so that means this has to be a T, or we can bird book it and find our T. T, yep, and there's the correct flower for the T. So T, here is our next branch, which has no leaves because this is a double flower. So double flowers can have a branch to the flowers, and this is a double no circle flower. So this is an R because it's two flowers. These are our two flower letters, by the way. You can have two flowers on them. And then their vowels are the same. So like, how do I explain this? Okay, so if we have these two vowels different, we messed up. These two vowels have to be the same. We can't have one be an A and one be an E because we wouldn't know which one to read first. So it's best to keep them the same. Or keep one blank and then one actually doing something. But this is easy because there's no vowels because they're both no vowels. So this is both no vowel filled in, no spores. So this is just a T, R, and then our next letter branching off here is a has no vowel on it as well because this is just a filled in flower. And we have one bump leaf and one straight leaf. So this is our stem, our flower here. And then one bump leaf and one straight leaf makes that OY. So our word here is TRY. And then we'll go to our next word. Here's our next word. And then we start with a vowel because this is just a carrier stem because there was no consonant first. So if we look at this, it is an open circle with no spores. So that would be an A. And we have our next letter here. We have 1, 2 leaves. This is just a really long leaf because there's no flower at the end of it. So you have a bump leaf and a straight leaf, which makes it a G. Or we can look at our key here, G. And then we have another A on a carrier because it's the same shape as that. And then we have another carrier because we have two vowels in a row, except this one is filled in with 2 spores. So that would be an I. And then we have our last bit, which has no leaves. There's no leaves branching off of it, but we have a flower shaped like this. So no leaves, a flower shaped like that makes it an N. So we can find our N. Where's the N? Here. So this says try again. So T, R, Y, A, G, A, I, N. And then this is punctuation, which is treated just like a third word, except this punctuation mark at the end of the sentence has one open and one closed flower, making it a period. So I could make it an exclamation point by making this shape, the like Y flower, Y flowers, or any of these punctuation marks. You treat them just like words. You put them in the order around your focus, just like those words. So okay, time for the last phase of our video, which is the drawing an example. I have our focus here, which has an image in it, which you might recognize. And I'm going to write God Gamer. Let's increase our font substantially. So the first step is keying it out. So let's go ahead and look at our key and find the letter G. So we know it's going to have a flower, or come on. Let me get to a new layer so I can actually draw. Okay, cool. Now I can actually draw. So here is our stem, and we got to figure out what leaves the G has. Okay, a G has one plain stem, plain leaf, and one bump leaf. Okay, so that is a G. Okay, and O is going to have a carrier because there's no flower here. So we're going to make our dashed line. And now let's find the flower shape, and O is an empty circle with one spore. So O is an empty circle with one spore. Let me make the spore bigger. Bam. Let me increase my hardness of my brush. There. Okay, cool. So that's too big for spore that looks like a flower. Okay, so there's the O, and now let's find the D in this, which A, B, C, D. Okay, this one is one of the special ones, which has a lot going on. So it has 2 and 2 for the leaves. 1, 2, and 1, bump, 2, bump. And its flower is, I'm actually going to use my elliptical select tool for this. Increase my brush size, bam. 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 And now I have to reconnect my stem all the way through my flower there. Those are the wrong size. Okay, so that's the D. Okay, and now we have another G. Okay, we've done G before. It is 1 empty leaf. And then 1 bump leaf. Okay, so because there's no flower in the G, we have to do the A on a carrier. And an A is an empty flower with no spores. So that's our A. Okay, so now we have an M. An M has 2 straight leaves and then this sort of shape for our flower. Okay, so here's our stem. An M has 2 straight leaves. Okay, and then the flower has, I should make a new layer for flowers so I don't have to erase things. Okay, so our flower has that sort of broken circle. So this is just the base ring around it. Here's the flower itself. Okay. Now we can manipulate that. Okay. So to break it, so an M has that like little broken bit. Bam. Bam. I guess they have it at an angle. You can choose this angle to be anywhere. You can choose to break it like that or break it any which way. So long as it's broken, it works. Okay, so there's the M. Okay, and then we have an E. And because there is a flower here, the E will go inside that flower. And an E has 1 spore on a solid flower. So the E is complete if we just do that. Put a little spore by this guy. Because now instead of a no vowel, it's an E because it has 1 spore. Let me merge those layers. And I'm actually going to take this whole thing and I'm going to put it right between the M and the E. So you can tell that that is an ME put together. And then we have our R. Here's the stem for it. Okay. R, there you are. Oh, and R is a double flower. So we can have it like that. And then another flower like that. Okay, cool. So those are the basis letters for the words God, Gamer, and Grubbifreyan. So let's go ahead and write that around our focus. So we have a 2-word focus. Let me merge these together so we can manipulate them. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and make this full screen because we no longer need this whole big everything because we have all the letters we need right there. So I'm going to get a bit more canvas space to draw. Okay. So I mostly use the elliptical select tool to draw because I'm used to drawing circular Gallifreyan, which is entirely circles. There's like no leaves to it at all. So this first bit I'm drawing is going to be the focus. Well, the words around the focus. And we've got 2 words, so I'm going to break this twice. My typical method of drawing is I have a background layer that I draw on, and then I paste each individual layer on top of that, and I organize them by word. So this is going to be the word God, and then this is going to be the word gamer. Okay, so here we have 2 words. So let's go ahead and split them kind of at an angle. Come on, brush, get bigger and biggin. There we go. Isn't that towards the middle? Yeah, that's close enough. Okay, sweet. So here is going to be our word stem for God at the bottom. And this is going to be our word stem for gamer at the top. Okay, so time for our first letter. So our first letter is the letter G, which, if we look up there, has 1 straight leaf and 1 bump leaf. I'm actually going to do something kind of concentric with this. I'm going to keep things going on a concentric happy circle thing. I don't know, man. Nah, that sounds like effort. I'm not going to do much effort. Woo. Okay. What is this? That is trash. I'm going to make that go away. Okay. Sweet. So a G. First of all, let me get a consistent brush size. We're going to have our brush be 30 pixels. I'm going to try to remember that. Okay. So here is part of the G. I'm actually going to have it bend because I want to. And because I think that will look nice. I want it to stick out a bit further. This will be like kind of going around the everything. Bam. 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 Oh, that's ugly. There's going to be a lot of me backspacing as I decide things are ugly. No, I'm going to reduce the weight on my brush. I don't care if my lines are really chunkier. I want it to... There we go. Okay, cool. I like this brush. Okay, sweet. So 2 leaves on this. We have a straight leaf and a bump leaf. Let's continue this along. Because we need our vowel carrier, I'm actually going to start that here. Okay, so there's our vowel carrier. And an O is... I shouldn't have done that. Let me go back to my 30 pixel brush. There. Okay, I'm going to use my elliptical select tool to make the O. Bam. No, I'm getting the bigger brush. And an O is hollowed out with 1 spore. Okay. Let me shrink my brush down again. Okay. So there we have the G-O. And I'm actually going to take this, select it all, copy it, cut it, paste it. So this is the G-O. And then we're going to add the D. Let me get back to my 30 pixel brush. We're going to have it attach here and kind of be in line with that. Okay, so that's where my stem is going to go. Okay, and a D has a lot going on. Holy cow. Okay, so we're going to make this a really big letter. And it's okay that I'm getting kind of onto the space of this letter, because our first letter is just a simple G. But a D is a big letter. So we're going to kind of wrap around. And normally I would be drawing these lines in like a vector program or nicer, but this is a lot faster and a lot more obvious what I'm doing to draw. In fact, I typically write this script by hand. Okay, so we have a lot of elements to put on this D. So let's start with our leaves. And you can do the leaves in different orders because on the key, every combination of leaves is different, so it doesn't have to be 2 non-modified leaves and then 2 bump leaves. You can have bump leaf, straight leaf, bump leaf, straight leaf, bump leaf, straight leaf, straight leaf, bump leaf, whatever. So long as you have 2 and 2, you're good. Okay, so we're going to actually do kind of that. Bump leaf, straight leaf, and then here's another bump leaf. Bam. Okay, and now we need that flower on it, which will look like that. So here's our outer flower ring, our flower decoration, and then filled in completely because there's no vowels after that. Get our brush back to 30. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Sweet. So 1, 2, I'm going to make this leaf a little bit bigger. Okay. 1, 2, and 1, 2. Okay, those are the leaves, and that's our flower. Cool. So this is the word God. G-O-D. Okay, time to add the next word. Gamer. So let's go up there. Okay, we start the same way. So here we have, I'm going to have both of these kind of like going backwards. So there's our nice little bump leaf. Ooh, I slipped. Yay, drawing with the mouse. 2. Okay, so those are our 2 leaves. We have a straight leaf and a bump leaf. I'm actually going to make this one a lot longer. Okay. And then coming from it, we're going to have our carrier to make the A. And an A is just an open circle with no spores. Open flower. No spores. Okay, so here's the G with the A. Select everything here and then paste it. Okay, so there's the G with the A, and now we're going to do an M with an E. And I'm going to branch it off. First of all, I'm going to get my 30 pixel brush. 30 pixel brush. So here's where we're going to branch our next letter from. Sneak it through here. Actually, let's look at what it is. Okay, it's got 2 leaves and a fancy flower. Okay, we're going to put the fancy flower all the way over here. That's not smooth. Come on, make a circle. Yarr. I hate drawing with a mouse. It sucks. Okay. Neat. Okay, so there's our stem. Bam. Bam. Okay. And we need some leaves. 1, 2 leaves, and then our flower, which is fancy. So it's that split flower. Pixel brush. Bam, connect that. And we're gonna have like our bend here, I think. Bam. Bam. Okay. Go back to the brush to make our little connection. Cool. Sweet. And we have to add that little spore. Don't forget the spore. Don't forget the spore. The little spore makes it an E. Now we're going to make the spore bigger so it doesn't hide. Okay. So ME, okay, and then we need the R, last but not least, which is fairly simple. We just have those 2 flowers, no leaves on the stem or anything. Oh yeah, we gotta grab this, paste it for the ME. This is the G, A. Okay. So time for the R. Last letter, we're almost there, yay! Okay. And I want to use up the rest of this space to make it kind of neat. Okay, so here's our attachment. Okay. And we're going to bend it. And we're going to have 1 flower there. You know what? I am going to branch it so I can have a 2nd flower there. Yeah, there and there. And that'll balance nicely, I think. Okay, so let's make a big brush for the flowers. And bigger brush. I want a bigger brush, bigger flowers. Yay, bam. Bam. Okay, 2 flower R. No, I don't like how that looks. I'm changing my mind on that. We're going to have them kind of still be in the same position, but 30 pixel brush. Bam. Yeah, I like that better. That looks nice. Okay, and here's something kind of neat about doing each thing on its own layer, is you can mess with them individually. So I'm actually going to do some scooching around to kind of help with our space. Because I want this all sorted out. Yeah. Scoochy, scoochy. Scoochy, scoochy. And we can manipulate them and transform them as well. Bam. I need this, because this needs to still connect. Here's my brush, 30 pixels. Gotta be a 30 pixel brush. So that's my line size. This still needs to connect up to this word stem. And then I also want to grab this A and move it a little bit closer there. Okay. We're looking pretty good. Okay, I want the ME to look more obviously attached to the GA. We're going to do that like that. Neat. Cool. I'm happy with how this is looking. Cool. Sweet. So now I'm going to hide this. And I'm going to hide... what layer is that on? That's the focus. Where the heck is that? What layer did I put that on? I'm going to make this go away. Oh, I think it's on my background. Okay. Neat. Ta-da! Bam. Got them. Actually, I'm going to put one last thing around everything. I'm going to put like a circle around it. Or like a shape. Actually, we'll do that by hand to make it an equivalent amount of sloppy as everything else. Kind of like a lore tablet. Yay! No, I want a circle. And we'll make it a circle. Yay, grumbling. Don't panic, this is on a separate layer. See? Separate layer. Anyway, and with this you could do a lot of bunch of different effects and things and stuff. And one last thing. Paint bucket, gray. We're gonna do an actual background. Kind of neat. Cool. Close enough. Yeah, this is kind of trash, but it's fine. It's an example. It's fine. I'm trying to convince myself it's fine, but it's not fine. It's never fine. Okay, I could spend like 2 more hours fiddling with this, making it happy, and like adjusting small little things, like the R, which I want to be less clustered. Bam. Now it's all skewed. I don't know, man. Bam. Okay, cool. Good enough. Good enough. Okay, I should stop poking it. So that way I can be done and turn the video off. Let's go. Yeah, I'm done. Video is turning off. Yay for unedited, 0 edit whatsoever. I just recorded my screen and talked. Hey, let's go. Bye.